Okay, let's make a start. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you again for taking the time to join us. We are continuing our ERP reporting series. Um, those who don't know us, my name is Rohit. I'm the head of revenue for Zap, and we've got David, who's our pre-sales lead, with me today. And we're running these series because we do ERP reporting really well. Well, at least we claim to do that. So this is about sharing our knowledge around some of the reports, the popular reports, some of the reports that have helped our customers on a regular basis, or ones that they desire to have. And we're going to bring those concepts. We're going to talk about that report. We want to talk about the benefit of that report, and we're going to actually build it in front of you using our tools. So without much further ado, I'm going to talk about a few things before I pass over to David. I'm going to spend some time just focusing on what is the reality today versus what is the possibility in the realm of APAR aging reports. So we are going to talk about historical 12-month and the trend and so on and so forth. I'm going to give you a perspective about time and dollar impact. Take what you want from this. I've used ChatGPT as you do these days, and a little bit of my head as well to understand, can this actually be of benefit and could actually it turn into an ROI? Because one of the questions everyone asks, be it with any technology software product, is what is the ROI? Will it make me money? Will it make me more efficient, and that's how I'll make money, and so on and so forth. I thought it is quite intriguing to even showcase one report and share and say, hey, actually, even one report, if you get it right, which can have a huge impact. And lastly, we have to talk about AI because that's where we are. And I think like everyone else, we are starting to embrace AI as individuals and as a company as well, and this will continue. So I will bring a theme around AI as part of this report as well. Okay, so what am I talking about? So firstly, what's the reality, and what is essentially what you could expect if you had that 12-month, APR aging report, historical working for you. So essentially, you would probably have an aging report, which is a point in time, aging as of today. Probably heavy spreadsheets that are being used for audits, a lot of reliance on the AP team for answers, limited views if you bring in complexity, of multiple entities, multiple currencies, and the close with respect to month ends, quarter ends, year ends is essentially a reactive process. I mean, the number of times we hear that our month end process is 5 days, 7 days, and so on and so forth, is quite amazing when we work with clients. Some of them obviously are relevant because of the financial process, but some of them could become faster, sometimes could be saved based on if you had the right data, if you had the right data in the right format, and in that format that you could understand and make decisions from. That's what we're talking about here. And when APAR is kind of the topic, cash comes in obviously. So with a relatively report that is the here and now of the situation, it's very hard to give cash forecasts and insights and so on and so forth. But if we compare this with something like a 12-month APAR aging, so this is like a historical aging report where if I sit today in July, I can see from last year, August till now, July, what was the trend? So you got monthly snapshots basically being taken and used for audits and trend analysis. You have drill down capabilities, and this is a panacea, I'm saying, but this is our reality today, actually. But being able to drill down on those reports to get to the bottom of the transaction. Um, when it comes to insights, that it becomes more CFO and controllers and those people coming into the fore and looking at that data and doing more self-service analysis on it. Multi-entity, currency, roll-ups, put down no Excel, but hey, you can connect to Excel as well if you want to with that data. And if the governed data is there, then you can do that as well. Strategy-wise, obviously, this is all more proactive. It's quite clean and faster decision making. So I'm going to talk a little bit more around that. But essentially, I love this comment that you can't manage what you can't see, and that's probably fair for anything. But in this particular case, if you don't have the historical trend, you don't have the visibility, the accountability, or the confidence on what is happening really. Now, like I said, I want to bring up business benefit when we talk about these reports, when we're doing ERP series reports. And look, take what you want from this. I did an analysis on a $10 million business essentially, and put up some criteria with ChatGPT, and it told me what could happen if you had these trends available, if you had drill down capabilities available, if you had the snapshots of each month available at your fingertips. What could it mean in terms of audit preparation, month-end close? I mean, month-end close is actually something um, we are very focused on, and we believe we've started to help a lot of customers to today to reduce it from 7 days, 10 days every month to less than 5 days or even more. Again, some financial processes that you have, obviously those things will take time, but that's more around the analysis offered, that's more around the commentary offered, that's more around the inference of the data rather than putting the data together. That's the part we are challenging, and we're trying to save time, and obviously that turns into money terms in terms of efficiency. Okay. Um, this could also affect your AR collections. If you have the trend, if like a customer regularly pays late and so on and so forth, then how do you approach them for the next time? So, pattern visibility and proactive risk kind of assessment around that. And with audits, obviously, you have external auditors as well, which you generally pay by day or by hour. I don't know, but yeah, if it's less time doing the audits, if it's less time preparing for the audits, it's less time getting sign off on the audits as well, hopefully, and that would mean some cost savings or business benefit there as well. Okay. Lastly, I want to bring AI into this. Obviously, like I said, we're all talking about it, and I think it makes sense to go deeper and try and understand where could AI help in something like that. Now, the premise of this is that you have some sort of data warehouse or data layer which you trust, where you have your finance ERP data coming together, which you can then connect to and put AI on top of that data model to have an interaction with. So, as an example, it's not just about visualizing as a trend, it is also about inferring that data. So, how about AI telling us that after looking at the trend, what would be the summarization of it? And as an example, AR over 90 days spiked 14% due to three customers in this particular entity. These inferences are going to become more and more real. We ourselves on our product are working in this direction where identification of these things can happen. So when you talk about some escalations, can I have flags around anomalies? Can it detect late paying customers? Can it detect, AP has vendor congestion or currency or entity specific risk trends? And these are flags that, yes, AI could pick it up quite easily. Um, Cash flow forecasting, again, with respect to AI, first part is understanding the data. Second part is predicting what could happen based on the trend that is there. Now you have a 12-month historical APAR aging trend. Why can't it predict? And usually with the right LLM model, it can. The last part which I want to cover, and this is something we already have a AI chatbot, and we're bringing NLP or natural language queries into this, where you can prompt it and ask questions to your database or to your report, or talk data to me, as we would like to call it. But essentially, this is where the whole magic of AI starts coming in. One part is go build it for me. The second part is infer it for me. And the third part is let's interact with it together. I don't know how many of you today use an AI tool in the business or on the side, but I mean, I personally, I would still call myself as a novice, but every question I have, every thought I have today, I go talk to AI. It's like my friend on the side. Even my holiday trip that I'm planning in August, I've gone through AI to check the best things available. And it is going to be that. So in this case, as an example, if you had the right data models available, if you had AI on top of that data model, you could easily ask it, why did it spike? So the first part of the inference is this spiked in the last 90 days due to these three customers. The second part of that is why? And can you drill down to the transactions and invoice and the entity level and go and have that inference? But it is an interaction through an NLP model where you either do it through text or you do it through voice between yourself, the AI, which sits on top of your data model. There's okay. So that's the kind of premise I want to talk about. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and bring in David. So David is going to now build a report for you, with you on the session, which is a 12-month APAR aging report. Whilst he's doing that, there is a Q&A section. So if you have any questions, please add it to the section below, and I will pick this up towards the end of the session. All right, David, I can see your screen. Over to you, buddy.
Super. Thank you, Rohit. So just before I start, can you hear me clearly? And can you see my
Yes,
screen?
I can see your screen and I can hear you clearly as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Rohit, for the introduction. And yes, right now I'm going to take you through a demo where I'm going to show you, I want to show you 4 elements. One is I want to show you some content that Zap as a solution has as pre-built. Then the main focus of the presentation will be to show you how we can actually create this panacea, how we can create these reports, and how we can customize this to our specific needs. And then I'm going to talk about the future. We know that the AI is something that is coming, but I want to talk about how we can use the past information, the history, to kind of predict the future. Not going to talk about AI features, but more about how we can forecast using some standard features that we have in Zap. But also I want to show you, I want to close with the Excel add-in feature. That's a new functionality that we released a couple of months ago. And I think this can massively unlock the power of the kind of analysis that you can do to predict the future based on the past that we have. So, all right. So I just want to show you, I want to start and I'm going to expand my screen by showing you this, which is the account receivable dashboard. And this is our pre-built dashboard. And this is pulling data directly from your ERP, right? So there are no manual exports, no manual cleaning of data, no spreadsheets in between, no waiting to have this information. All of this is automated, right? So let's use this as a starting point of your journey. And now on the top left-hand side of the screen, you will clearly see the most important metrics when we're thinking about collection of money and cash flow, right? We have the receivables here, and we're analyzing what is open, what is overdue, and what is current, right? And on the right-hand side of the screen where I'm placing now my mouse, we can see now how visually we are breaking down that depth by age. So this helps us to quickly answer those questions that really matters. So we can quickly respond into how much that depth is aging on a 30, 60, 90, or more than 100 days overdue. Below, we can also see which are our top 10 customers. So these are the biggest open balances right now that we have, right? So they are already sorted by balance. So in this way, we can easily identify that in this case, Alma Mate is leading. And if we hover over this customer, and if we double click in this metric, we can drill down even further to understand a lower level of detail. Where is this data coming from? How old are these actually invoices? Now, on the right-hand side, we can see a top 10 overdue customers. So this is where things start getting more interesting because this allows us to understand what are the riskiest customers. So, and we can actually break this down based on the buckets, right? On how late that debt is. And actually, look, something very interesting happening here. If we see that actually Amalgate and also fun times, which actually it's not that fun anymore, actually appear in both charts, right? So this can tell us actually a deeper story. These aren't just our biggest customers, but these might be the ones that might be driving some cash flow problems and some risks when it comes to the cash flow. Now, talking about cash flow, if we go to the bottom of the chart, we will see that we are analyzing now the historical aging, which is actually, by the way, where we are going to be concentrating most of our attention today. So, this aging over time chart allows us to see month by month the balances where we are splitting these numbers by the aging group, right? So, in a very simple way, what can we say? We can identify seasonalities. We can answer questions about and identify unusual spikes in the data and, unusual aging over time. Maybe there's some trends that we need to identify. And finally, one of my favorites, which we can see on the right-hand side, because I believe that this is quite relevant, we have a waterfall chart. And why is this relevant? Well, it's highlighting our collection performance over the last year. So it shows us month by month whether my receivables were growing or shrinking. So we can clearly see from this chart that actually it grew. So actually my overdue receivables and the open receivables overdue. So obviously this is part of the information and one dashboard doesn't answer those questions, but it triggers some information that can allow me, to understand the situation of my business. And here's where it gets even more interesting. These dashboards that think about all the ingredients, all the components, all the answers that we can answer with this dashboard, but think also about how we can mix and match all of these ingredients to build our own customized reports and our own customized journeys to have a much more deeper perspective of our business. So these reports are always dynamic. We can break this down by companies, by customer classes, by geography, business units, if we want to compare how these are performing. But something sometimes having a very high level dashboard, this might be good for the executive team, but many times it's not enough. What if we want to ask, okay, if we see this chart, okay, who is exactly sitting in these buckets? Right? Well, what are the customers that are constantly overdue? Is this something that's happening one time, or if this is actually part of a bigger problem that we need to assess? We can see that in this chat, we have a problem. Part of the debt that it's already overdue is more than 120 days overdue. So maybe we want to understand and assess more, where is this problem coming from? So I'm going to drill down into this report. So this is something that comes pre-built. But based on your business requirements, we might need to customize this view. So in this one, this is an agent by customer report, and this gives us a line by line breakdown of those outstanding balances by customer and by agent bucket, right? So we can immediately see, who owns us the most, what overdue, how is that overdue balance distributed, and we can start identifying risks, right, in our cash flow. And we can always sort this in a descending and ascending mode. So this dashboard that I showed you, I mean, this is pre-built content, and this is, as I mentioned, reporting and analytics is always a journey. And this is the first stage of the journey. But recently, I was working with a customer, and when we were analyzing the report, they told us, your out-of-the-box report is perfect. I like it. But your report is analyzing the aging pockets based on the due date. And I want to analyze this based on the document date, right? Because they wanted to use this for auditing processes. They wanted to understand billing patterns, and they wanted to understand, actually the dates against the invoice when it was actually issued, right? To try to identify trends with their own billing practices. So part of what I want to show you next, I want to now jump from what is pre-built into, okay, how we can customize this pre-built content. How can I tailor the solution to respond into my own specific questions that might be relevant to the business? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on these three dots that I have on the right-hand side of the screen. Actually, this is a drill down, so actually I cannot do this on this report. Let me just click on these three dots, and I'm going to go into the designer mode. So actually that will allow me to design a specific reports. So if I go into the financials, it was in the general ledger, sorry, account receivable. And I believe that this is the one that we were actually looking at, right? So I want to show you first how I can replicate this report, how I can build this report from scratch. So to do that, let me just see where I am actually storing these metrics, because I'm going to reuse this in the future. Okay, super. So I'm going to create a brand new report from scratch. So I'm going to click on this plus button, and I'm going to create an analysis table. And what I want to show you is that everything here is about dragging and dropping. We don't need to have any components. Think about the dashboard that I already showed you. And I always make this analogy, but creating a report is preparing a dish. And to prepare a dish, you need to have the correct ingredients. And that's what we will have here, right? So knowing the collection, knowing how a invoice have aged, well, that's not straightforward, because the data does not exist like that in your ERP, right? We have the due dates, we have the document dates, but we don't know how was the picture on a specific point on time. We are not doing currency conversion, and that's what we are bringing here. We're simplifying, we're baking those ingredients so they are ready for you to create a report. So what I'm going to do to create this report, we need to first know what are actually the, let me see which is the current amount by closing balance. 1 second, let me just locate which is the one that I need to use. Okay. So what I want to do is first I need to drag and drop those ingredients. And in this case, the calculations that are involved, the agings, these are actually calculations. We need to calculate the amount based on the due date and the payment date, right? If we want to analyze this in the future. The good thing is that these calculations are already here. So if I want to build that report, everything is about dragging and dropping. So for example, here I'm dragging and dropping the current amount. I'm dragging and dropping what is aged on a 30 days bucket, right? And this is based on the document date, right? Actually, I'm going to build this not on the document date. This is what I built for the customer, but for the purpose of this exercise, I will replicate what we have here. And I'm going to select right now the current balances. So I'm going to drag and drop. What is the current balance? What has aged on a 30 days aged bucket? What has aged on a 60 to 90 days aged bucket? What is from 90 to 120 days overdue? And finally, what is more than 120 days overdue? Right? So we have now this data. Now, how do we want to break this data? Well, maybe we want to break this data by the typical analysis, and the exercise that I showed you is by customer. So let's break this down by customer, right? Let's break this down by customer so we can see a clear picture of how this is actually eating. So if we compare this with the existing report, you can see that we are getting almost there. We have the opening balance, we have the current, and we have what is aged. Perfect. Now, I want to use a different approach. Let me just change this name. I want just to right here. This is the current balance, right? And then I want to show you how we can create a calculation. I want to see what is the overdue balance. And it's the sum of all of these components. And although we have that overdue balance already, I want to show you how we can create formulas here. So I'm just going to right click here. I'm going to go into the sum function that we have. And this is going to be my overdue balance, right? And it's going to be the sum of all my balances, the 30, 60, 90, and more than 120 days overdue. And now I have my aging overdue balance, right? So I have here what is current, what is overdue. Now I want to know what is my total debt, my total balance, right? So I'm just going to say, hey, this is my total balance. And so I'm customizing even the out-of-the-box reports to tailor and to build a narrative. And I want to use this as a starting point to create a forecast. So I will be connecting all the dots and I will be explaining why am I filling this report. So I'm basically here summing my current amount and my overdue amount to get what is actually my total balance, right? Or receivables balance or open amount. We can obviously use a different convention. And I'm just going to mark this as bold so we are aware of what is the most important metric, right? Now, let's order this as a descending mode so we can see, we can identify, and we're missing here something, we're missing the totals. So let's add the totals so we can see what is the total amount that we have on each of these buckets, right? Now, part of the strategy is I want to see, is my overdue balance wrong or can I do something to improve this? So let me just, I want to here change this figure because I don't like how these numbers look like. Now it looks much better. And I want to see what percentage is this overdue debt of my total balance. So to do that, I'm going to create a custom formula and I'm going to divide the overdue amount. And I'm going to do something quick. I know that in a real scenario, I might need to do protection against zero. Here, I'm not going to do it. And this is going to be the percentage overdue, right? So let's see how bad or how good is my overdue balance performing. Am I doing a good job collecting my debts or am I having an issue collecting my debts? So let's see how it looks like. This is an overdue. Let me see if I use the right formula. Overdue balance divided by my total balance. It seems correct. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this into percentage, right? Because these numbers doesn't make any sense. Now I can see. And something seems slightly wrong with this. Let me see, overdue balance. Let's see if it actually makes sense. Yeah, it does. It makes sense. Okay, perfect. So now we have here the overdue balance. We can see actually that it's quite, it's not that big, the balance. And what we need to now select is the date. So let's select here the date, which again, depending on how we are preparing the report, we can use a different date. But for this exercise, I'm going to use the posting date. And I'm going to select here a specific month. I'm going to select December 2020 to see how we were performing in this month, right? And we can clearly see, what is the percentage overdue by customers. We can see that actually in total, it's quite high. We have 22. So with some customers it's low. So let's add some colors to this so we can actually communicate information in a better way. So again, remember, we are customizing the pre-built content and what we want to do is not about the reports, it's about the strategies that I can craft with this information. So I'm going to add some colors. I'm going to make some conditional formatting. So I'm going to add here some conditional formatting on a heat map, let's say, which is going to be from maybe a green color to a red color to see where those problematic customers. So now we can highlight, okay, this is the customers that has a 100% of their debt overdue. So they are not paying me. But now I want to see how relevant is that amount? Is that something relevant? Is that something that we should worry about? Well, we can add now a here conditional formatting to the second, which is showing me the that overdue amount, that overdue balance. And from here, I'm going to use a different range of colors. Maybe I will use orange, so I don't repeat the same colors to see which are the most problematic customers. So actually, I can identify that I have three here. I have actually here Indis, ABC Indus, and CO10. These are the ones that has a high depth, overdue depth, but also the 100% of their depth is overdue. So this might be some customers that represent a high risk to our business, right? So now we have this report. So I think this report is communicating a more powerful narrative. We are customizing the pre-built reports that we have. We're using this as a starting point. But now here it's easy to identify patterns and to identify where the story is. So I'm going to save this report. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to save this one in my personal folder in this webinar folder. And this is going to be my accounts receivable report. Something simple right now. Report by customer. So see how in a couple of minutes I was able to create this report because I have those ingredients. But now, is this a one-time thing? Is this a one-time invoice? For example, for Indies, let's say that we want to concentrate our attention here because this is the most problematic customer. Or which are those invoices? So let's customize this report. Let's say that we don't want to have everything in one report. We have something short, sweet, and simple that can create a story. So let's basically now remove here the customers, and let's just bring here the invoice number, document number. So maybe let's bring the document number. Let's maybe bring here what is the entry type. And maybe we want to have additional information. And this is the kind of story that I build with this customer. They want to understand, okay, I know where the problem is, but now I want to identify which are the invoice. I want to understand what is the story behind that customer. So I'm going to build this second report. And as you can see, it's just about dragging and dropping. I just remove the customer and then I just replace it by the document number. And I'm going to save this report as my aging report by, but this is going to be by invoice, right? So I'm adding this by invoice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to now link the two reports together. So if I open the first document, which I don't remember where I saved it, I think it's here. Yes, account receivable by customer. I'm going to click on the data section and I'm going to create a drill. So what I want to show you is that we can create those journeys on how I want to drill down into the data, right? So from this report that I have here, let's say that I want to analyze, okay, I have a overdue balance, which is more than 120 days overdue. I want to see which are those invoices. I'm linking the invoice report to this one. So if I double click on this figure and finger cross, it will work. I am actually seeing that balance of those invoices. So I can see, okay, actually the problem, if I go into this report again, for this specific customer, okay, the 100% of the debt is overdue and the 100% is 229. But the problem for this customer is this specific invoice, right? Which is 223K. So maybe the problem wouldn't have been that big if I didn't invoice this specific invoice. And I can always double click to see the specific lines, and I can see when this invoice was actually created. Here I might just need to customize this drill through, but I can see here more information about that invoice. Which is a customer? We know that it's in this case. Which was the entry type? The internal unique number, when it was the due date, when it was posted. So is that how we can create strategy from these reports, right? How we can use this pre-built content to go from a high level overview understand where the problem is, understand where the invoice is, and from here start making strategies, because this specific business is the one that is compromising the cash flow of my business, right? Just very quickly to show you, this is going to be the link for the next topic. We can just easily remove this. Let's say that I want to analyze this not by customer, but I want to have a more high level review. I want to analyze this by month for a specific year, right, for 2018. So see how simple it is to just change this report, and from here to build a chart where I can actually, which this is the second report that I want to show you, how to create a account receivable trend. So we can see what is the total balance, what from that total balance, what is my current balance. And then I want to see just in this chart, because I have too many components, what is my overdue amount, right? So I'm not selecting the overdue, I'm just selecting the specific buckets. So I'm just going to plot these components. So I clean a little bit of data, and these components, I want to show them together in one same chart. I want to group them. So, we have a lot of flexibility here on how we present the data. It looks much more clean. And now I can see that the vast majority of my total balance mostly is current, but we can see that the things that are actually aged are very much aged, right? So this can be, we can define some strategies for specific customers to actually define where the problem is. So I'm going to save this report as, in this webinar, this will be by date. And I will write here just webinar because I want to show you a next exercise. So now here we have information about the past. For this exercise, let's think that we are sitting today in June 2018. I'm actually, because I want to show you the Excel adding features, I'm going to remove the chart. But what is next? How can we craft strategies to see what will happen in the future? So this will bring me to my next topic, which is how can we use a solution to predict the future? And basically, this is a report that I built. This is using a different database. This is something that I built for a specific webinar, and I can show this in much more detail if you want. We can have a one-to-one session on this. But in this database, I'm sitting in December 2024. So I have all the information, all my paid amount of my receivables before, right? And with this in mind, I can start using within ZAP, within the solution, some statistical functions to try to see, okay, what is my maximum debt? What is my minimum payment? What is the average? And statistical information like, okay, let's plot a linear regression to see, is my debt increasing or decreasing, my balances? Is my collection effectiveness improving? We can then use within our platform some simple solutions using simple moving average, weighted moving average, or seasonality, if there's a specific, So everything from December onwards, as you can see here, we don't have information, but all of this information that I have here, the simple moving average, weighted moving average, or the seasonality, are things that are basically based on, predictions or inputs that we are creating. So the solution allows us to do what if analysis to see is how, the foundations step, building some forecasting or prediction, which is what mentioned Rohit, that's where we are going, that's where we are directing our efforts. But always the first step on this journey is to have information, right? To have the history. And that's what we are providing. We're providing these foundations so we can start thinking now about how those strategies that we craft will define the future. This is one way. And but to make it even easier for you, we know that sometimes building these formulas here might require a bit more level of knowledge, right, on how to use app or how to use these functions. But what if we want to do something simpler? Hey, you know what? I want to just use Excel. That's a solution that I'm familiar. I want to use this report that you have here. I want to export this into Excel and I want to use this to predict the future. Can I do that? And the answer is yes, we can do. So let me just, what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to remove the sorting. In this case, this doesn't make any sense. And actually, let me see, I think remove sorting. There we go. I'm going to save this report. And I mentioned that we have a Excel add-in functionality. So basically, let me just download this Excel add-in. And let's open this report. And basically an Excel add-in, it's a report that will create a live connection. It's basically mirroring that report that I showed you. And this allows us to create, very powerful things. First, I need to log in. So you can see that this is an add-in, and we can discuss this in much more detail in the future. But basically that report that I had that I was showing you is being mirrored here. I have this exact same report. So I'm going to just copy and paste this report, and I want to create a forecast. I want to see how this will look like in the future, right? So let me just forecast this. Let's say that I identify I have overdue issues, and I want to create a strategy that will allow me to predict how my balances will look like in the future, right? So we know that in average, my balance right now is 22. This is too high. You can see that there has been a trend that my balance has been increasing. And I want to design a strategy that will allow me to reduce this number to maybe 10%, right, in the future. So again, the data is coming here from SAP. All of this information is coming from SAP. So this is just a mirror report. But Excel always allows us to create some ad hoc reports that otherwise you won't be able to create in SAP, right? So I'm just going to create this is just going to be a month, right? And this is going to be from 1 to 12. And I will show you why I'm doing that. So basically I want to predict what would happen to my overdue, to my cash flow, to my overdue and current balance if I, reduce my overdue balance. So for that, I'm just going to change these figures. I'm just going to create this as a number. Here I'm having issues with I'm converting this to number. I want to convert this also to number. And let me show this. Now I have the 12 months, right? So just to make it easier, I'm just going to predict this for the next 24 months. And I'm going to use a function. Let me see. I had it here. So let me see if I can just copy and paste it. Which I think is actually I didn't draw right. So it's linear. Forecast linear. I'm going to create a forecast here where I'm calculating here the X, which is actually this, my month 13. So I'm going to calculate here for this period 13 my balance based on the Y's. This is the information that I know. Oops. Sorry, let me do it again. Right, so I'm going to forecast for the next 12 months how my opening balances will look like. So see, in a very simple way and using Excel, a solution that I already know how to use, that I am already familiar, I'm forecasting how my debt will look like, right? All of this information is, again, historical, was generated in SAP. It was currency conversion by company, everything is already there, right? So now I know what is the total balance. And let me cut and paste this here so I can just build a better narrative. Actually, let me insert this. Yeah. And right now we are sitting in 22%, right? But what if we want to start reducing? So this month will be, let me just change this to percentage. So we use the same amount. Percentage, right? 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, and maybe, oops, I'm using the different figures. And maybe let's say that from here it's 15%. So I need to define some strategies to do that right. And then here I have the 10%. So now I want to see how my cash flow will look like, right? So of this amount that I'm predicting to get in the future, this 20% is going to be overdue. Right? So I can see how these amounts actually will look like. And then I can forecast what is the current balance that I'm expecting to get. So see how simple, using a tool that I'm already familiar, I'm able now to forecast my cash positions in the future, right? Using Excel, which is a solution that I am already familiar. So the message that I want to give is that we started from something that is pre-built. Our solution has pre-built content, has pre-built dashboards. I showed you how we can customize the solution to tailor specific business requirements that I have, and we can analyze and understand the past, understand where the problems sit. But we can also use the history, the past information to take advantage and start defining strategies and see what would the outcome of those strategies will look like, right? And with tools that we are very familiar. So it's not only about static reports that we might have in the BI, but about having tools like Excel that can allow us to play around with information. So this is pretty much what I have prepared to show you for today's session. I will hand over to Rohit. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me, and I will be more than happy to go through those questions.
Brilliant. Thanks, David. Thanks for that. We have a question in the chat, so let me open that up. So this is from one of our customers, actually. And they are asking, where can they find 0 to 30 aged calculations? Where are they coming from? They don't seem to have it in their data model. Where is that calculation coming from? Is this something they need to create in their data model, or is this available? So it's the aged 0 to 30 calculations.
Yeah. So that will depend on the version of the solution that you have. In the solution, depending the old versions, we used to have here a dimension, which was the aging bucket, right? And that is breaking down the data by buckets by 30, 60, 90, and 120 days. The previous solutions is something static. So it's telling me how is that aging, how is that balance as to today. But the newer versions, like the one that I'm showing you, and this is the latest, now we are creating those calculations on the fly, which is allowing us to see this, how that screenshot, of the data looked like in the past. So happy to have this conversation in much more detail to analyze which is your version and to see if you have these measures available or if that's something that, would need to be created for you. But, it's just some calculations that needs to be created.
Great. Thank you, David. Another question. Is the pre-built model taking into consideration customer terms? Really good question, actually. David?
I think it's very similar to the previous one. It will depend on the solution. Customer terms generally is something that is within the accounts receivable. Normally it's hidden and we only require to activate that as a filter so we can actually analyze, for example, and filter, okay, these are my customers, but I want to see what are the customers that are on a 30 days, let's say, aging bucket. So in that terms, we can see if that fits within the requirement. Out of the box, what we are doing is that we are comparing the due date against if the document is open against today, right, to see if it's overdue. But we're also comparing that against the reconciliation date, which is basically when, or the payment date, which is when the document was paid. That's for the past invoice.
Okay. Could we change the buckets if somebody had terms of 45 days payment terms or 60 days payment terms?
Absolutely. Yeah, that can be customized and tailored to any specific requirements.
Okay, very good. Hope that answers your question. Good. I'm just checking if there are any further questions. Yeah. Another question is, can regular Zap users refresh the Zap Excel live, or does it require a designer license to refresh? So I can answer that. Yes, you need a designer license to have the ability to refresh your data within Excel. So you need to be a user on Zap, essentially. That's how you get designer rights, which means on Excel, you become Excel designer as well. So you can refresh data from Excel. Hope that's the question. Um, just waiting. Give it a minute. Whilst we wait, just want to mention that this is a series we plan to continue. We've done a couple of ERP reports around the finance function, and we plan to move into sales and inventory direction, because essentially ERP reporting is not just limited to finance, but would love feedback. This is something new we've started, so would appreciate any feedback, good, bad, all welcome. If you think we're doing something which is in the right direction and adds value to what you are doing, you are customers and partners of ERPs that we work with. So, or if it's a different direction, I mean, we're trying to go deeper and deeper here. So any feedback would be really welcome. Any topics you would like us to cover would be really welcome as well. Okay, I think that's about it for the questions. Oh, hang on a minute, just when I said that. Oh yeah, thank you. Appreciate that, Aaron. Really appreciate that. Thank you for the feedback. So yeah, a little bit of encouragement always helps, guys. So thank you that. But yeah, thank you all again. Thank you for your time for this session. I hope it was useful. Recordings will be sent out soon from the marketing department, and the team will reach out to who's asked the question, and then we work from there. But yeah, you know where we are. Give us a shout if you want to connect and discuss more and go into the detail. But yeah, thank you for your time and appreciate you joining. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.